What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Report for the final video before the draft kicks off on Thursday. In today's video, we'll be doing my final mock draft, and this is where I will be predicting what will happen. If you saw my video from last week where I showed another mock draft, that was what I think, or what I would do if I was the GM. This one will be what I think will happen. We have trades. This will be 2 rounds, so long video today, but felt this was important to get out before Thursday's big day. So we start with number 1, obvious pick. Everyone knows it's happening. Calab Williams to the Bears. Don't really need to talk much about it. Best quarterback in the draft by far, and he's going to the number 1 team that needs a quarterback. Pretty easy pick there. Number 2, this is where the draft really starts. Jayden Daniels to the Commanders. As you guys probably know, I'm not the biggest Jayden Daniels guy, but I just think there's a lot of smoke that he will go to the Commanders, even though there's the whole thing with his agent maybe not being super happy with the team. It just seems like the dots are aligning. Everything's coming together. It feels like he's going to be a Commander. Even if I think it should be Maye. There's just not much smoke around Maye going to the Commanders. It's a lot of Daniels talk, so could be wrong, but I just have a feeling it's going to be Jayden Daniels there at 2. And then number 3, I think a lot of people would have a trade here, but I think this really depends what the Commanders do. If the Commanders take Maye, I just have a feeling the Patriots aren't the biggest on Jayden Daniels just because I feel like Maye really fits more of the what they want in a quarterback, not as much of a runner, more of a pass-first guy. But either way, I think if it is Daniels at 2, then there's going to be a huge bidding war between the Broncos and the Vikings to maybe go up and get Maye. But in this case, I think the Patriots just want to get their guy, and they kind of view Maye as that, Justin Herbert level guy, and they really think he can be the franchise quarterback, and maybe they think Daniels can too. I just feel like Daniels isn't as much of a Patriot guy with all of his running. I feel like they want more of a pocket passer, but either way, I think they do take Maye. There's obviously a lot of smoke that they could trade this pick, but I just don't see it happening when a talented quarterback like Maye is on the board. You don't get many opportunities to take a guy like this, so I think they pounce on that opportunity. We get on number 4, Marvin Harrison. This is another one where maybe there could be a trade for J.J. McCarthy, but I don't see quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4 in this class. Even 1, 2, 3 would be pretty rare, but I don't see the first 4 being quarterbacks. And when you have a guy like Marvin Harrison on the board for a team that needs a receiver, needs a weapon, I don't see how you pass on him. He is so good. You know what you're getting. You're getting a guy who can be a Pro Bowler from year 1 with the potential to be an All-Pro every year of his career. I mean, this guy has a super high ceiling. He has everything you want in a receiver. He's a special prospect, and I'd have no problem taking him at 4 there for the Cardinals. We need a receiver. Number 5, Joe Alt. I know people kind of don't love this pick because he's a left tackle. They would probably have to switch over to right, or you have to move Slater to right because you do have a left tackle there for the Chargers. But this could definitely be Malik Neighbors or Odunze as well. But the Chargers, Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, historically have not really loved going building from the outside in. They kind of like to build through the trenches, especially Greg Roman, not big on receivers. So I think they do bolster the trenches and maybe pick depth wide receivers later in the draft. But Alt, special talent. He's like 6'9", good power at the point of attack, but also moves in space well. Excellent hand usage. He's just the full package, and I think worthy of a top 5 pick as well. We get to number 6, Malik Neighbors to the Giants. And this one, it's pretty obvious they're going receiver. Maybe they'd go McCarthy, but I just don't think they would. And between Odunze and Neighbors, I could really see both ways. Odunze is more of that outside threat, where Neighbors could play inside out. He's more explosive, maybe not the ball winner down the field that Rome Odunze is. But man, Malik Neighbors is so explosive. He's so fast, and he still has room to grow and become better, and that's even scarier to think about. There are some slight character concerns. He did get arrested for gun charges in New Orleans a couple months back. But I think the Giants, he's too talented of a player to pass up here at 6 when they need explosive plays on that offense. Number 7, and this is a pick I'm sure Titans fans would not be a huge fan of, and this could definitely be Rome Odunze, but I don't think they go receiver because they've invested so much in that position, whether it's Treylon Burks with the first-round pick, or it's DeAndre Hopkins with the big contract, now Calvin Ridley with the big contract. And they obviously didn't value it a ton when they traded A.J. Brown, so I just don't think they're going to spend the number 7 pick on another receiver, but this definitely could be Odunze. But J.C. Latham is a guy that's powerful. He's a right tackle, which they're in desperate need of. He's powerful, but he can also move pretty well for someone who's 360 pounds. And I think Brian Callahan would love to get this guy in the building and really develop him. So they get Latham, who could play guard, tackle, whatever they need for him there. Number 8, Dallas Turner to the Falcons. This is one that gets mocked all the time, and maybe it's one of those things where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's not really what is going to happen. But I find it hard to believe in a 3-4 system. Raheem Morris wants a guy that can rush the passer. The Falcons really have no edge rushers as of now that provide much of a threat. They haven't really had a dominant edge rusher since like Vic Beasley. So I think Turner, you get a freak athlete, long wingspan, really all the tools you want in an edge, and he had good production at Alabama. So I think that'd be a good pick there at 8. And then we have our first trade of the video. We have the Vikings trading up to number 11. And I guess this is with an in-division opponent, so that makes it a little tough. But I think it could happen just because it is so close pick-wise. But the Vikings, number 11, are trading up to number 9 with the Bears. And they are giving up number 23 as well, and then the Bears will give them a second. This is kind of tough because these teams both are lacking second-round picks, and the Bears have a late third or an early third, I believe, but the Vikings don't. So it's kind of hard to make a trade here, but I just feel like the Vikings are sensing that they can get that quarterback, and I feel like with the Broncos and Raiders right behind them, I don't know if they can really wait until 11 because those teams are going to be aggressive trying to jump them. So I guess now that I think about it, this probably is unlikely because of the in-division opponent thing, but maybe the Bears still do it. They want to gain picks later in the draft, so maybe they're desperate and do it. And obviously, as I mentioned, they are taking quarterback J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings. I think the Vikings would have loved to get Maye, but with the Patriots sitting there, who I think really would want Maye as well, it probably was taking maybe both first this year, first next year, and maybe even more. And I just think the Vikings didn't really want to give up all that when they could just get McCarthy later down the line. So JJ here at number 9, he's a guy that O'Connell could really develop. And in a system with Addison and Hawkinson and Jefferson, I think that's the best situation for any of these rookie quarterbacks to thrive in. So I like that pick at 9, even though I'm not the highest on JJ. I think getting him in that system could really help his progression. We get to number 10, Troy Fautanu to the Jets. This is someone I'm not the biggest fan of, especially as a top 10 pick, but man, the Jets obviously have Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, but how long are they going to be there? And Troy Fautanu is a guy who could play guard early in his career, maybe kick out to tackle later. But if he is a guard, he's going to be an elite guard. He's super athletic. He moves like a tight end in space. He's a weapon when you're using him as a puller or on screen passes. So I really like that. This could be Brock Bowers. I guess it could be Odunze, but I have a hard time seeing that. But I just don't think the Jets are going to value a tight end that high, especially when they need O-line help. Protect Aaron Rodgers there and get a future piece to that offensive line wherever he ends up falling in place. And then we get to number 11. The Bears trade back, and they end up taking Byron Murphy Jr. here. This is a guy who's been getting a lot of hype lately. I've kind of been on the train of Byron Murphy for a while, but this is a freak athlete. He's kind of short and stocky, but he gets out of his stance super well. He's explosive. He had good pressure numbers at Texas, even though he didn't have a ton of sacks. He defends the run well. He's super flexible, and he takes on doubles, like just gets on all fours and kind of bends under them. It's very unique, but I think this is a guy. Obviously, they drafted Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens last year pretty early on, but you get another 3-tech in there. He can move over to nose if you need him to, but you pair him with Montez Sweat, and I think you have a lot of pressure coming from that defensive line, which they have been missing these past couple years. So I like that pick there, and very well could just switch McCarthy and this. Maybe there's no trade, and Murphy goes 9 and McCarthy goes 11. That's very likely as well. We get to another trade. I have the Broncos trading their number 12 pick to the Buffalo Bills for number 28, number 60, number 144, and a third round pick next year. So the Bills are giving up a lot. So they better be getting a great prospect, and they do. They get Rome Odunze. I think the Bills are going to be desperate to get a receiver in this draft. And if they see Odunze fall to number 12, you got to pounce on that. I know you're giving up a lot of draft capital, but Odunze is a guy that you know is going to be very good, and he has potential to truly be a top 5, top 10 receiver in this league. I love Odunze, but I just have, in this scenario, he falls to 12. If I was the GM, he would not fall to 12. I would take him with a bunch of these teams. He's a good athlete. He's fast. He catches everything. His hands are amazing. He's a smooth route runner. Maybe not as explosive as Neighbors, but he's in that same tier with Neighbors as guys that I just know are going to be amazing, and putting him with Josh Allen could be scary for the league. We get to 13, Quinyon Mitchell to the Raiders, and I had a tough time between him and Terrion Arnold, but I really think this will be a corner. The Raiders need a ton of help on the outside, and I think Mitchell projects more as that outside corner in a zone system that the Raiders love to run. It's going to be a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3, and Quinyon is the guy to run that. His instincts are great. He attacks well. He's good at the catch point. Maybe not the guy you want in press man coverage, but in a zone scheme like the Raiders, I really think he could fit well there. 14, Olu Fashanu to the New Orleans Saints. This is one that I feel like gets mocked a lot too. The Saints in desperate need of a tackle now that Ryan Ramczyk might be out for the entire year. He might end up having to retire. Who knows what happens with that situation. But even if he comes back, they still need tackle. And Olu's the best pass protector of the guys that are left. Even if his run blocking isn't the best, I think you have a pretty high floor because of his pass protection. And if he can fix his run blocking, he could be very good. So he's worthy of this pick. We get to number 15, Brock Bowers. The slide finally falls for Bowers to the Colts. The Colts are a team that have historically valued the tight end position. And Shane Steichen is able to get his guy for Anthony Richardson, another weapon, put him with Pittman and Downs and Pierce. I mean, you have pretty good weapons there. Even if Bowers isn't your prototypical like receiver or inline tight end, he's kind of fits a bunch of different roles for you. He can play in line. He can line up in the backfield even. You could put him on like end arounds. You can line him up in the slot. He could play outside if you need him to. I mean, he's a all-around weapon. Even if he's maybe not your prototypical 260-pound tight end, he's an amazing player and a steal at 15 for the Colts. 16, Talise Fuanga for the Seattle Seahawks. They're a team that just needs kind of an identity on that offensive line. Getting Fuanga, who could probably play guard early on in his career. Maybe he plays tackle. I kind of think of him more as a guard, but either way, he's a mauler in the run game, and I think Ryan Grubb would love to bring him into that offensive line, who desperately just needs that tenacity and aggression across it to kind of give them a character a little bit. 17, Terrion Arnold to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a team that needs a cornerback. They do like to play a lot of man, and maybe Wiggins would fit that a little better, but I think Arnold's just the better all-around corner. He plays the run super well, and he's just an all-around defensive weapon. Maybe he plays in the slot a little more, but he could play outside too. I just love his all-around game, even if he's not the best at anything in this class. He is very good at everything. 18, Brian Thomas Jr. to the Bengals. Obviously, don't really need a receiver as of now with Higgins and Chase, but I just have a feeling that Higgins is not going to be there for super long, whether he gets traded before the season or he leaves after this offseason. I think it's worth investing in a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., who's a freak athlete and in more of an upside swing, but if he hits his upside and you put him with Jamar Chase, with Burrow, that is a scary, scary offense. And you know, his rookie year, he can be kind of that field stretcher third option with Higgins and Chase, and that's just scary to think about as well. So you go all in for Burrow there on the offense. We get to number 19, Jerzon Newton to the Rams. Obviously, losing Aaron Donald, you kind of, in a way, get his replacement. No one's going to be Aaron Donald, obviously, but Newton's a guy who can get interior pressure, hold up against the run, and someone that I just think would fill that void of Aaron Donald to some degree, but it's going to be tough to replicate that. 20th pick here, we have Amarius Mims to the Steelers. They took Broderick Jones, another Georgia offensive lineman last year, and they do it again. Mims is a freak athlete, but he only played like 8 games in college, very limited snaps. So he's definitely um, more of a high upside swing, but I think he also brings somewhat of a high floor if he can stay healthy, because on the film he looks pretty good. He doesn't look super raw. It was really just health that kept him off the field. So if he stays healthy, you could have a bookend tackle for the future. 21, Graham Barton to the Dolphins. They are in need of interior offensive line, whether it's guard, whether it's center. Losing Robert Hunt's going to hurt. So Barton's a guy that can play guard or center. He did play tackle in college, but I just have a hard time seeing him stick at tackle. But either way, this is a guy that is great in the run game, has great grip strength, but also can move super well. He attacks at the second level. He is on the shorter side, so he can kind of get outreached a little bit on bull rushes and stuff, but he's just an all-around great guard, offensive line. Wherever he ends up playing, he's going to be good for the Dolphins who need help. We get to 22, Cooper DeJean. This is one I've mocked a lot to the Eagles. They're in need of help up the spine of their defense, whether it's at nickel, whether it's at safety, at linebacker, in the box. DeJean is that guy. I want him playing as close to the football as possible. I don't love him as an outside corner, but he can do that, and maybe you develop that when Bradbury and Slay end up leaving. But for the foreseeable future, he could be that nickel safety, box guy. I mean, wherever you put him, he's going to be a beast because he's a great straight line athlete. His instincts are amazing. He's a great tackler. I just don't love him in man-to-man coverage, but outside of that, he's a freak of a defensive back prospect. So I like that for the Eagles. We get to 23, Leatu Latu. The slide falls. He goes to this is supposed to be the Bears because of the trade. It says Vikings. But either way, this should be the Bears. They are in need of an edge rusher. And Leatu Latu, if you get him at 23, pair him with Byron Murphy. I mean, that would be amazing on that offensive line. That's pretty crazy to think about. Leatu Latu, Montez Sweat, Byron Murphy. I mean, geez, that is a freak combo of pass rushers there, and helping out Calab Williams on the other side. That team could be very good in a hurry if you get him. So yeah, again, that should be the Bears, not the Vikings there. 24, Jackson Powers Johnson to the Cowboys. They're a team that could use a center or a guard, just help on their offensive line. I think Powers Johnson can play center or guard at a high level from day one. So pretty easy pick there for me. 25, Jared Verse to the Packers. This is someone who falls a little bit more than where he probably should go, but he's a powerful, explosive defensive lineman, edge rusher, probably fits a 4-3, which is what the Packers play, as that 4-3 defensive end. He has a great power profile, holds up against the run super well, but he's a little stiff and maybe not going to bend the arc super well, but he's a very good player, high floor guy for the Packers there. And then 26, Nate Wiggins to the Buccaneers. This is someone I'm higher on, but there's just some concerning things. He came in very light at the combine, so I worry about his play strength. His tackling is very poor. And then there's some rumors about just his care for the game and stuff through interviews. But regardless, at 26, I think this is a steal of a pick. He has the potential to be your Sauce Gardner, your Patrick Surtain, that just lockdown corner that can shut down an entire side of the field. But he needs some work to get there for sure. 27, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Cardinals. This is another pick that I've mocked a ton. Just a great press man corner, but can also play in zone. He's just not the best athlete, so that's why he falls. But you saw it in college. No one ever tested him because he just locks people down. I do worry against guys like Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson how he'd hold up. But as a cornerback too, potentially, that'd be very good. 28, the Broncos, they obviously trade down with the Bills earlier, so they get Bo Nix here at 28. And I think this is a perfect situation for the Broncos if this happens. You gain some extra picks later in the draft, but you also get a guy that could potentially be your quarterback of the future in Bo Nix. He's on the older side, not going to bring a ton of exciting plays to the table, but he's safe. I think he's what Sean Payton would love in a quarterback, guy that's not going to put the ball in harm's way. He's going to hit the short stuff, but he also has a pretty good arm to make the long throws, and he also is pretty athletic, so he can make plays when the play breaks down. So I think Nix is a guy that Sean Payton would love to bring in. Maybe he's the pick at 12, but if you can get him at 28, even better. We have a trade here. This is another trade I've mocked a ton. 44 and 77 going to the Lions for number 29. And the Raiders do that to get their guy, get a fifth-year option on a guy like Michael Penix Jr. They have Gardner Minshew, they have Aiden O'Connell, but I think neither of those guys are the guys for the future, obviously. And Penix has the ability, if he stays healthy, to maybe be that guy of the future. He has a great arm, and he showed flashes of elite quarterbacking skills during that Texas game, especially. I worry about his ability to handle pressure to a super high degree, even though he does a good job avoiding sacks. And then just when the play breaks down, what does he provide to you? But Penix is a guy, as a pocket passer, he can be very good for you. 30, Tyler Guyton to the Ravens. This is a developmental tackle. They did lose Morgan Moses this offseason, so maybe Guyton would be thrust into a role pretty early on, but if not, this is a guy that can sit for a couple years and then develop, and he has pretty high upside, but more of a late first-round guy to me just because he is so raw at the position. 31, Jordan Morgan to the San Francisco 49ers, whether he sticks at tackle, plays guard. I think the Niners, outside of Trent Williams, their line is not that great, so anywhere where he can fit in, he's a guy that can play from day one. Great pass protector, maybe not the best run blocker, but Morgan's a guy who can contribute from day one, which is what the Niners need. 32, Adonai Mitchell to the Chiefs here, and I would hate this. I'm a Broncos fan, obviously, and ooh, boy, if they get out on Mitchell, that would be scary. Obviously has some, maybe not character concerns, but just effort concerns. And there's the whole thing with the diabetes and that when his blood sugar's low, he kind of acts out. I don't know if all of that is true, but regardless, this dude's a special player. 6'3", ran in the 4.3s at the combine. He's super twitched up. He looks like CeeDee Lamb running routes. His hands are amazing. And if the Chiefs get him, you just know he's going to be a freak. And I would hate him with Mahomes as a Broncos fan. But regardless, great pick there at 32 if that does happen. Then we get to the second round here. I'll go a little quicker. 33, Chop Robinson. Panthers need some edge help, and they get an explosive guy that needs some work. Lad McConkey, 34. I know it's a white receiver going to the Patriots, but this is a twitched-up route runner that can get open, whether he's on the outside in the slot. He has great hands. He has speed to carry vertically, and maybe he's the next Julian Edelman. Darius Robinson here to the Cardinals. He's he's kind of like Jared Verse light. He's powerful, a little stiff, but a little explosive out of his stance, holds up well against the run, can play all across the line. Cardinals need a lot of help there. Ennis Reichestra from Missouri to the Commanders. They need a ton of help, whether if it's inside at the slot or outside. Reichestra can play either of those spots, so I like that for the Commanders. 37, Roman Wilson. This is a bit of a reach, but I just know Harbaugh is going to start taking Michigan guys later in the draft. And Roman Wilson, he's a great slot receiver. I don't love his nuance of routes, but he's super quick and twitchy and fast. So he gets open pretty easily, and then his hands are good. So Roman Wilson's a good slot guy there for the Chargers. Maybe Quentin Johnson on the outside and Wilson on the inside. Kamari Lassiter, tough, physical, run-defending cornerback that I don't really want in man coverage, but as, in cover 2, cover 3, playing the flats, I think he could be very good. I just love his mentality. Keon Coleman here to the Panthers. They get their ball-winning X-receiver that they kind of thought they got in Jonathan Mingo, but through 1 year hasn't really looked great. They obviously have Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson kind of underneath separators, but Keon Coleman can be that true X-receiver ball winner on the outside. Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. The Commanders were, I think, first in pressures given up this last year. Part of that might be on Sam Howell, but, they need help on that offensive line. So Mate is not a complete product, but with some development, he has pretty high upside and can definitely be a plus starter in this league. The Packers love valuing these athletic guys, and Braden Fisk is a freak of nature athlete. He ran like 4.78 or something in the 40 at the combine at like 290 pounds. In a straight line, this dude's explosive. He has very short arms and he's a little stiff. I'm not the biggest Braden Fisk guy, but I think this is kind of the range he might go. To the Packers, who could use some D-line help. They pair him with a Verse. And then Edgerrin Cooper to the Texans. This is another guy that could potentially sneak in first round. Super long, super fast, super explosive getting downhill. His eyes maybe aren't the best right now. He's more of a just hit and go guy compared to really reading things out. But I think you have Aziz Al-Shair there. So you kind of have, if Cooper isn't playing super well, you have some options. He doesn't have to be thrust into a role from day one, but he's a good athlete. And I think keeping him in the state of Texas with the Texans could help him out there. We go 43, Max Melton out of Rutgers. This guy I like. He's super explosive, super athletic, but needs a lot of technical work. And you put him on the other side of AJ Terrell, that could be a scary combo for the future. Christian Haynes out of UConn. The Lions need some help with Jonah Jackson leaving, so they get Christian Haynes, who's excellent in the zone blocking game. He's pretty long. He's pretty big. He's athletic. He's powerful. He's kind of the full package. He just played at UConn. He's an older guy. His technique's maybe not fully there, but I'm a big fan of Christian Haynes. Chris Jenkins to the Saints. This is a team that just needs a lot of interior help, whether it's getting pressure, whether it's holding up against the run. I think Jenkins from day one provides a lot of run help ability and then is more of a developmental pass rusher, but he has the tools to be a plus pass rusher at the next level. TJ Tampa from Iowa State, cornerback to the Colts. This is a team that likes to run a lot of cover 3, and I think TJ Tampa in a zone scheme would be very good. His instincts in zone are exceptional. He plays the ball well, but he's just not a great athlete, and I don't think he's someone you want to stick in man coverage. But in a zone-heavy scheme, I like that. Patrick Paul, Giants took Neighbors round 1. They get their offensive tackle here, and Paul. Maybe Evan Neal slides into guard, but if not, Paul could sit for a little bit and develop. And I just think getting another option there at tackle, whether Neal does stick, whatever. But Paul's not really ready to play right now, but he could develop into a pretty elite tackle in the future. Troy Franklin to the Jaguars. This is a team that has pretty good depth, obviously, with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. But Franklin could be another guy in there, a field stretching, deep threat, great speed. His hands aren't that great. He has good route running ability for the most part, so I think 48 is a decent range for him. Roger Rosengarten to the Bengals. They need help on the line. They took Brian Thomas in round 1. Rosengarten's an athletic freak, not super powerful, but he moves well in space, and I think is a guy that has pretty good potential there. Ricky Pearsall to the Eagles. They have Smith and Brown, and then outside of that, their receiver room kind of falls off. But you get Pearsall, who's kind of that slot guy, oversized slot guy, but he can really be a good wide receiver 3. I think he's more of a wide receiver 2, but if you get him as your third wide receiver, that's pretty great. Steelers get a Xavier Worthy. They lose out on Deontay Johnson this offseason. Maybe they trade for Brandon Ayuk during the draft, but I'm assuming that's not going to happen. They have George Pickens as kind of their ball-winning guy on the sideline, but Worthy can be that more underneath option, but also gives you that just playmaking upside that they've been missing. They don't have a ton of explosive plays, and you put Worthy and Justin Fields in the same offense. That's kind of more of that explosive offense you're looking for. So I like that. Kyron Amagaji, developmental tackle from Yale, super long, super athletic, someone I'm a really big fan of. Rams need help on that entire offensive line, but especially on the bookends. And then Junior Colson to the Eagles. This could be Peyton Wilson, but I just think with the injuries, he might fall a little bit. But Colson is someone that I just know is going to be good. He's maybe not the freakiest athlete or the biggest guy, but he just knows how to play football. So I think the Eagles get that. They've been in desperate need of linebackers for a long time now, so they bring him in, and I like that. Michael Hall to the Browns. The Browns are a team, Jim Schwartz especially, is known for just getting after the passer. Doesn't really care about stopping the run, but, Michael Hall is a beast at getting pressure on the quarterback. He's maybe not the best at stopping the run, but you put him with Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, that could be a very good pass rush. Zach Frazier here to the Dolphins. They need a center pretty badly. I guess I did have them taking Graham Barton earlier, so maybe this wouldn't be the pick. I kind of forgot about that. But either way, Zach Frazier could be the pick here in the second round as a center. Not the best athlete, not the biggest guy, but kind of like Colson, just knows how to play. He's tough, he's physical, he's powerful. I like Frazier there. Trey Benson to the Cowboys. I think Benson's the only running back that has a chance to go in the second round, and I think the Cowboys are a team that obviously needs running back because I don't think Deuce Vaughn is going to be their RB1. Benson's a guy who can sustain a full workload. He's fast, he's big, he's a little stiff, but I think he provides a 3-down role for a team that really needs it. Marshawn Nealand here. This is a guy that I think has potential to maybe go first round, but he kind of slips here. Team's just not needing edge, but he's explosive, he's big, he's powerful. He just didn't have great production. He played at Western Michigan, so that's kind of the concern, but I like him there for the Bucs, who just need pass rush help. Tyler Nubin, safety, Minnesota. They obviously bring in Xavier McKinney, but I think they could still use another safety. and the Packers are just looking for that another guy in the secondary. Nubin provides that. Mikey Sanders still to the Texans. Not really your outside corner that they might want in a cornerback too, but a guy that plays the run well. An absolute menace defending screen passes, just physical, great slot corner. And I think in that nickel role, he could really thrive. Jalen Polk to the Broncos. This is the pick they get from that Bills trade. Polk's not going to blow you away, but as a wide receiver 2, he's solid. You know what you're getting, and I think Sean Payton's going to value that. And I think just a team that needs more talent, you go for a safe pick like Polk, and that's going to help you out, help Bo Nix out in this exercise. Chris Braswell to the Lions. They obviously have Hutchinson, but Braswell's a guy who can get after the passer. He's pretty explosive. He has a pretty deep bag of moves. I just worry about him holding up against the run. Xavier Legette here, he falls, but the Ravens, they obviously have Zay Flowers, but more of your ball-winning X receiver. Xavier Legette is fast and big and catches the ball well, but he's not a great route runner, so I think Flowers is more that underneath separator, and Legette can be that over-the-top guy for Jackson. Javon Bullard, more of a nickel guy, probably kind of in that Brian Branch mold, but getting another playmaker in that San Francisco secondary would help them out. And then Dom Pooney, tackle, guard, center, wherever you want him. The Chiefs just need a little bit more depth on the O-line, so that's going to end the mock draft there. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I know this is a longer video. If you stuck all the way through, I really appreciate that. And obviously this is not going to be right come Thursday, but just a fun exercise. Always fun to do mocks, even though they're wrong about 99% of the time. It's just it's fun to do. So I will be ranking all the picks of the first round, and then after the draft, I'll give a breakdown of every team. So stay tuned for that, but please let me know what you thought of this video, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.